During the Depression, a new pair of shoes cost $2. A working father earned $2 a day if he was lucky, so he didn't buy new shoes. He fixed the ones his family had on a cast iron shoe last with a kitchen knife, a handful of brass tacks, and whatever scrap leather he could find. And when the leather ran out, he cut soles from old car tires. These are 15 repairs every father in America knew how to do. Your grandfather could do all of them. Most men today can't. Subscribe before we start. Number 15, iron shoe last. A cast iron stand shaped like a foot, bolted to a heavy base, usually with 3 interchangeable forms, men's, women's, and children's. You slipped the shoe onto the form upside down, and the iron held it steady while you worked on the sole. Hardware stores sold them for under $1. During the Depression, almost every household with children owned one because children wore through shoes faster than they outgrew them. Without a last, every other repair on this list was guesswork. With one, a kitchen table became a cobbler's bench. Number 14, AWL and wax linen thread. A curved steel awl about 5 inches long and a spool of heavy linen thread coated in beeswax. When a seam split on the upper of a shoe, a father didn't throw the shoe away. He pushed the awl through the original stitch holes one at a time, pulled the wax thread through by hand, and sewed the seam shut. The beeswax did 2 things. It lubricated the thread so it pulled through leather without tearing, and it waterproofed the stitching so the thread wouldn't rot from sweat and rain. A seam stitched with waxed linen held as long as the original factory stitching, sometimes longer, because a father pulled every stitch tighter than a machine did. Number 13, newspaper insoles. When the inside sole of a shoe wore through to nothing, the cheapest replacement was the morning paper. A father traced the shape of the shoe onto a section of newspaper, cut it out, folded it into 2 or 3 layers, and pressed it flat inside the shoe. The paper cushioned the foot, insulated it from cold ground in winter, and absorbed sweat. It lasted about a week before it compressed flat and needed replacing. Newspaper cost nothing. A family that couldn't afford leather insoles could afford yesterday's front page. Most children who grew up during the Depression remember the feel of newsprint under their toes. Number 12, saddle soap deep clean, leather that dries out cracks. Cracked leather can't be repaired. Saddle soap was the preventive measure that kept shoes alive long enough to need the other 14 repairs on this list. A father worked the soap into the leather with a damp rag, let it soak, then wiped the surface clean. The soap pulled dirt out of the grain, rehydrated the fibers, and left a thin protective layer on the surface. A tin of saddle soap cost a dime and lasted months. The Sunday night ritual of cleaning the family shoes after supper wasn't vanity. It was maintenance. It was how a father taught his children that what you own is worth preserving. Number 11, Dubbin waterproofing. A paste made from rendered animal fat, usually beef tallow, mixed with beeswax. You rubbed it into leather boots with your fingers, working it into the grain until the leather darkened and the surface turned slick. The fat and wax filled the pores and made the leather shed water for weeks. A tin of Dubbin cost a few cents at the general store. Most families during the Depression made their own from kitchen grease and candle stubs. A pair of work boots treated with Dubbin could survive a full winter of mud, snow, and standing water without the leather rotting through the sole. Number 10, shoe stretchers. Wooden adjustable forms shaped roughly like a foot with a screw mechanism that expanded them sideways. A father jammed a stretcher inside a tight shoe, wrapped the outside in a damp cloth, and turned the screw. Moisture softened the leather. The pressure expanded it. Overnight, a shoe that pinched grew a half size wider. During the Depression, children inherited shoes from older siblings. The shoes rarely fit. Stretchers made hand-me-downs wearable without spending a cent. Number 9, half-soling with scrap leather. When the ball of the foot wore through the sole but the heel and arch were still solid, a full resole wasted material. A father cut a new half-sole from whatever leather he could find. An old belt, a worn-out handbag, a piece from the scrap bin at the shoe repair shop. He shaped it to match the front half of the existing sole, roughed both surfaces, cemented the new piece in place, and tacked the edges with brass shoe tacks, brass wooden rust. A good half sole took 20 minutes and saved the entire shoe by replacing only the section that needed replacing. And this is the one people still talk about. Number 8, tire rubber resoling. When leather couldn't be found or couldn't be afforded, a father cut soles from old car tires. He'd find a worn tire at a gas station or a junkyard, cut flat sections of tread with a heavy knife, trace the shape of the old sole onto the rubber, and trim it to match. He attached the new sole with shoe tacks, small bolts, or a combination of cement and rivets. Tire rubber was tougher than leather. It didn't absorb water. It didn't crack in cold weather. And it was free. A pair of work boots resoled with tire tread could outlast 3 sets of leather soles on the same uppers. The tread pattern on the bottom of your father's work boots was the same pattern that used to ride on the highway. During the Depression, tire-soled shoes were so common in some parts of the country that nobody looked twice at them. Number 7, heel buildup. Heels wear down unevenly. The outside edge goes first because most men walk with a slight outward roll, then the whole heel thins out. A father rebuilt it one layer at a time. He cut thin discs of leather or rubber from whatever scrap he had, stacked them over the worn section, cemented them in place, and tacked through the entire stack into the existing heel base. When the edges were rough, he trimmed them flush with a knife. A heel buildup took 10 minutes and added months to a pair of shoes that still had life in the uppers. Number 6, hot knife edge sealing. After a new sole or half sole was trimmed to shape, the cut edge of the leather was raw and fibrous. Left alone, it would absorb water, fray, and separate. A father heated a kitchen knife blade on the stove until the steel was hot to the touch, then ran the flat of the blade slowly along the edge of the sole. The heat melted the leather fibers together, sealed the edge against moisture, and left a smooth, finished surface that looked almost factory-made. The technique took less than a minute per shoe and required nothing but a knife and a stove burner. Number 5, leather patch with rubber cement. When the upper of a shoe developed a hole or a tear too large to stitch, a father cut a patch from whatever leather scrap he had, an old glove, a wallet, a piece of belt. He roughed up the area around the damage with sandpaper, applied rubber cement to both the patch and the shoe, waited for the cement to get tacky, and pressed the patch into place. Rubber cement was flexible. It bent with every step instead of fighting the shoe's movement. A stitch patch pulled at the stitch holes under stress. A cemented patch moved with the leather and stayed put. Number 4, wooden shoe pegging. Before nails, before tacks, cobblers attached soles to uppers with tiny hardwood pegs. A father punched small holes through the sole and insole with an awl, then drove short pegs of maple or birch into the holes with a light hammer. The pegs swelled when they absorbed moisture from the foot, which tightened the joint from the inside. When the shoe dried, the compressed wood fibers locked the pegs in place permanently. Pegging was older than stitching, quieter than tacking, and required nothing but a sharp awl and a handful of wooden pegs that a man could whittle from a scrap of hardwood in 15 minutes. Number 3, walnut hull dye. Black walnuts drop their hulls every fall. The hulls are thick, green, and loaded with a natural pigment called juglone that stains everything it touches. A father collected the fallen hulls, boiled them in water on the kitchen stove, and strained the dark liquid into a jar. The result was a rich brown dye that could recolor scuffed, faded, or mismatched shoes. He applied it with a rag, let it dry, then buffed the surface with a stiff brush. The color wasn't perfect, it wasn't uniform, but it turned a pair of shoes that looked ruined into a pair that looked like they'd been worn a little less. The dye cost nothing because the walnuts were on the ground. Number 2, steel toe caps. Children destroy the toes of their shoes, running, kicking, scuffing, dragging their feet on every surface they cross. The leather over the toe wore through faster than any other part of the shoe. A father's fix was a thin piece of sheet metal, tin from a food can, copper from scrap, or steel from a hardware bin, cut to shape with tin snips and tacked over the toe with small nails. The metal cap took the abrasion instead of the leather underneath. It wasn't pretty. It clicked on wood floors and sparked on concrete. But a pair of shoes with steel toe caps could survive 2 children instead of 1. In a family with 4 or 5 kids passing shoes down the line, that arithmetic was worth more than appearance. Number 1, cardboard sole pattern. Every repair on this list that involved a new sole or a new half sole started with this one skill. A father placed the worn shoe sole down on a piece of cardboard, traced the outline with a pencil, and cut the pattern out with kitchen scissors. That cardboard template was then placed on whatever material he was cutting the new sole from: leather scrap, tire rubber, old belting, and traced again. The second tracing was the cutting line. The template guaranteed that the new sole matched the shape of the old one exactly. Left foot to left foot, right foot to right foot, toe curve and heel curve lined up every time. A man didn't need training to make a pattern. He needed a pencil, a piece of cardboard, and steady hands. This is the skill that separated a father who could keep his family in shoes from a father who had to buy new ones. During the Depression, cardboard used as a makeshift sole replacement was so common it earned a name. They called it Hoover Leather, after the president most families blamed for the hard times. No storefront, no apprenticeship, no machinery, just the willingness to sit down at the kitchen table after supper and do the work. During the Depression, a father couldn't hand his son $1 and say, "Go buy new shoes." He could hand him a shoe last, a kitchen knife, and a handful of brass tacks, and say, "Watch what I do." The tools cost almost nothing. The materials cost less. And the shoes lasted another year because one man decided they would. Not one of these 15 repairs required a shop, a storefront, or a single day of training. They required a father who refused to let his family go without. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and watch the next video above.